Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll make a start. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I appreciate taking times out of your busy schedule. So with that in mind, I'll keep my intro to an absolute minimum so we can get on to the good bit. We will, as you're here for, we will take a look at Ocean Learning Platform. My colleague Nikolai will take you through what we think are the key features and the areas we think could be of real benefit to you and to your organizations. So in terms of the structure of this, we will sort of walk you through a demo of some of the various features, and at the end of that, we will look to answer any questions that you might have. Please feel free to put any questions you've got in the Q&A box, which you can hopefully see on your screen. As I say, we will look to answer those, as many of those as we can at the end of the session, so we can keep it going and get as much of the important information over to you as possible. So like I said, I don't want to hold anything up, so I will hand over to my colleague Nikolai, who will begin for us. Thanks, Nikolai.
Thank you, James, and welcome to everybody. As James said, I will be going through our platform. I'll start with, as an admin, going through some key features, giving a little teaser of how to operate the system. And then we will go on through to the user side and see how things looks from the trainee or seafarer side. So let me share my screen. There we go. James, can you confirm that you see my screen?
Yes, I can now. Thanks,
excellent. So first things first, to log in as an administrator, you navigate to oceantg.com. You find the login button on the upper right corner. You click that. And we're looking for the Ocean Learning Platform. So we click login now. I'm logging into the demo database. This is my demo database under company name, OLP Demo. My admin user is nikolai.overvold@, and then I enter my password. And then I'm taking straight to the dashboard. The dashboard is a snapshot of what is going on in the database. This is a demo, so I have a lot of different things going on. But the first thing we see here is the status for all active users in the database. All active users means all that are either on board or active. They've not been put to historical. If you have personnel leaving and put them to historical, they will not be showing up in any statistics or reports. So we see that the average for all my users in this database is 12% completion of their requirements. And then we see the different categorization of the training requirements in this database. We have a lot of different things going on. And we also note that from all users, there's a lot more going on than for the users that I currently have on board in my database. So the second view here is for the personnel that is currently registered on board a vessel. And we see that, for instance, if you compare here the OLP familiarization program, we see that for all users it's an 11% completion, but for my current crew on board, it's 17%. And you will tend to see some variations here. That's natural because the crew on board is doing training as part of their day-to-day job. And when they're ashore, they tend to slow down a bit. You also see if there's a big variation here, you might have a lot of seafarers that has left the company and is not doing any training. So that's an indication you can read out here that maybe you need to clean up your data a bit. On the rightmost side, you see number of records recorded per month. And we see the first one is a summary of all installations, that is all records. Purple color is e-learning. Blue color is CST, which is company-specific training, typically videos, any external event registered in the system. Green is assessments, which is part of our CMS product. And this lighter purple is CES. We'll see that we have an okay indication here. for training. We see that for CSTs, which is the most used in this database, we have around 25 on average month by month. Please note that this will only update at the end of the month. That's why you see a break off here, because it only reports a full month. So in April, when we have 1st of May, we will also see the numbers from April. Then it shows your top 2 performing installations by records, and it's the same data, same color coding. And at the very bottom here, you have a list of my installations. And these are up to 20 installations that you can select to monitor. And you do that by clicking this cogwheel and select the vessels that you wish to monitor, up to 20. And it gives an abbreviated summary of what is going on. I see for all my installations, I have 12% on average. On board Calway, I have 27% completion. On NIS, I have 17%, and on Yoga, I have 0%. We also see how many users are currently registered on board. So this is an indication for a normal operating vessel. There should be a lot more users. So here we see that we have data that might be something to look into, because I would presume around 20 per vessel would be optimum. You also see the last report. As you might be aware, you have the online database where you are accessing, but on board your vessels, you have an offline installation, which ensures that the crew can connect and have a pleasant, high-quality training experience, regardless of the current internet connection. But that means that the vessels need to communicate with this online event, and that is done via configuration file. This can be an automated operation, or it can be done manually by either the master or the chief officer on board, where they make an export file from the system and send it to your dedicated training email address. This can be done as often as they would like, but we recommend minimum once a month if you have the manual version. We also recommend that you do the automation, where you will receive every 24 hours. But then you would have the date when the vessels was last reporting, and that gives you an indication of the validity of the training, the data I see here. So for this event, I have not available, i.e. the vessel have never reported. So there might be a lot going on. If you've just talked with the master and he says that, oh, everybody is on 70%, then, well, they need to report it, because you only see what is reported here. And here you see a clear indication that there has been no report done. So this is, the first page here is a big snapshot of what is going on. If you go a bit deeper into the system, you have the menu on the left-hand side. If you hover over it, you will see multiple selections here, depending on your subscription level. Personnel is the very basic function. We need to add our trainees here. To add the personnel is quite easy. You add ID, the rank, the names, the date of birth and nationality. I also recommend that you add an email address. This is, for instance, if the crew disremembers their passwords, they need to have an email address registered to be able to use the automated request lost password function. Once you've added a person, they will be in. We can add a person just for the example of it. So let's add a master. Once I've added a person, typically there will not be any training requirements associated with this. This database has been configured so that it has some requirements associated with the installation type other, which is the standard installation whenever you have added a person. To ensure that the person gets the right training requirements, you need to change the installation type and assign this. So for instance, if this is a master is going to serve on bulk vessels, you simply change to bulk and save. And we now see that the training requirements has been updated. This will be done automatically if the master is assigned on board one of your vessels. Then the installation type and installation will automatically update to reflect the vessel installation. So you don't need to do this unless you want the candidates to start training as per the requirements before they're even assigned to the vessel. So if you add them and it's still a month until they can board a vessel, you can still change this and they are still able to log in online. Moving further, you need to monitor this. Search for personnel is if I just do a search without any filters, I will get a return of all the current trainees registered in the system. This can be exported to Excel if I want to. We also see the status of their training here in the pending. So pending 100% means that no training has been completed. They are pending all training. So if we sort here, we can see that my best candidate is Mr. Gabriel, who has only 36% left of his training to complete. You can also do an advanced search. For instance, if you want to see who is currently on board MV Green, for example, I can change the installation to be criteria to be MV Green, and I change the status to be on board. So if I now search, these are the crew that is currently registered on board MV Green, and we see that they have some training started. If we want to look at more details, we can access them. We see on the very first page, we see a summary of their status, the different training requirement trees we have, and an abbreviated on how much the completion is. We also see when the last record was done by this gentleman. If we want to see more details, we can go to requirements. And we see the list of every requirement. And you will notice that I only see red ones now, meaning unfulfilled requirements. This is because I have the filter show proficiencies to not approved. If I change this to all required, I will also see the ones that are verified. So you see how it looks, the difference between them. I can also look at the details of the requirements if I click them. I see that this is a company notice, which is a very nice function where you can set read requirements to PDF documents that you want your crew to read. And this is about safe work in confined spaces. So to view the notice, I simply click View Company Notice, so I can see, oh, this was the requirement. We will look more into how it looks for the user afterwards. I'm also able to do a requirement simulation. So this one is a master on board a bulk carrier today. We see that all required proficiencies is 55. And if we see on e-learning, we see that he has some completed. We could simulate, well, what would the status be in, let's do the full 60 months. So if the candidate doesn't do anything in 60 months, what will be the status of the requirements? And if we simulate here, we see that, oh, personal safety, which was green, has now changed to expired. So it had a retraining requirement that was hitting within the 60 months. Same for 192, 193. We see that 191 is still checked out. So this was a one-time requirement. So you can have both requirements that you want the personnel to complete once, and you can have them retraining every 3 years, every year, depending on your training focus. We can also change the vessel type. So let's say that we want this master to train on to serve on a chemical tanker. If we start a simulation, we see that we get a complete different set of requirements. And here we see that we have the Intertanko ICMG, and we see that the captain is not checked out on any of the requirements here. If I want to review all the records that this seafarer has, I can go to records, and I can expand, and I see all the records, when they were made, which score they had, which installation they were done on. I can also look at the details, time used, and we see here that this was one registered by me, so it doesn't have any time because I use the sysadmin administrator to register this training, so that's why. If I go to print details, I will get the verification of training, which is a verification that you've completed this module. And if I go to assignments, I can see where the person has been serving and in which rank. So that's the brief summary. If I want to schedule CES test or Marlin's test, I can do that easily here. And let's see. And schedule test, and the candidate will receive an email that they're scheduled and test. But that's very basic. I'm sure you have plenty of questions. We can do that in a more personal setting. But if we want to look at, yes, James?
I was just going to say, we've got, I know we'll have a look at questions at the end, but I think we've actually got a very interesting and relevant question here from Adam Lewis.
Yes.
Which is, what happens in a mixed fleet if a seafarer moves vessel types? Are their previous records transferred over? So it might be a good
yes.
time to look at that.
Yes. Requirements are only checking your records, and your records are personal. So yes, your records will follow you no matter which fleet you are in the same database. So if we change this person to, let's change him to a container, and we see here, if we change to all approved, or required, sorry, and we see that, well, he had some requirements, they were identical for the container and bulk fleet, and they're still verified under requirements. So all the records are associated with your ID number. So they will follow you no matter where you change in the fleet. I hope that was a clear answer. Let me change this back to NVIDIA Green.
Yeah, thanks, Nikolai.
No worries. Monitoring of training is, of course, important. We have the snapshot on the home page, the dashboard that we went briefly through. It gives you kind of a snapshot, but often you want to investigate further. You have a plethora of reports that is available, and you also the reports are in Excel format or PDF. But you also have on certain subscription levels, you have the completion rates, which gives you a monitoring tool. The first page on completion rate is an overview, very brief overview of the requirements. We see that we have some flags here showing the indications behind the traffic lights methodology. We see here that for our installation group, LPG, for assessments, they are green. So that means that they have between 75 and 100%. Of course, in a new database, it might be, when you're just starting out training, it might be sensible to monitor lower levels. So that's quite easy. You just set the traffic light methodology here. And now we see we have a bit different data. So for all onboard, CSTs is yellow. So that means that they have between 26 and 74%. For both Manila, we also have that for CSTs and approved assessments. And we can look at the specific installations as well. And it's just an overview. It's just giving you where are we at with a brief glance. We can also look at fleet activity. We could either do all active and on board or just the personnel on board. You could do installation groups, rank groups, filters, but let's just keep it on board for the example. And here you see I get activity type. If you're using CMS function, you can have a lot of different criteria for checking out the requirement. So here we see company-specific training, i.e. CST, the company notices, the e-learnings, the onboard assessments, the rapid e-learnings. Then we have the e-learning categories for the e-learning modules and the fulfillment of the requirements here according to categories. We see the installations and how they are progressing. If we had tagged the personnel by managed by or personnel pool, we could see the differences between them. So for instance, if I want to compare my manning office in Manila versus my manning office in Singapore, or I could see the difference here. We see the rank groups. Deccan Engine for this database is currently on board. We see the ranks, the different ranks that are on board and their completion rate. And we see each and every proficiency and their progression. And this is only reflecting when it's required. So for this principles of navigation, 100% can be only one person that has it required of the 50 or so that is on board, but it's 100% completion of the required ones. And you can navigate through this. These are quite simple to export to Excel or PDF if you want to bring them, process them further, or use them in presentations to present to the board the progression of the training of your fleet. In addition, you have the compliance selected requirements. It might be cases where you have specific requirements that you wish to monitor. And then you can make your own filter. You click go to configuration, you see the button up here. And then we add a template, and let's call this MLC top 4. Create this template. And I select the ranks that it's monitoring. I select the installations I wish to monitor, the managed by tags if I use that, and personnel pools. I select the charts that I want to be shown. Let's see. I select that I want it to be active and available in the central database. And then I have all the proficiencies listed. In this database, I have 3,368 unique proficiencies required in some way or form. But if we search here for MOC, for instance, I see here that I have some e-learnings, I have some company notices, ISF record book has some mention of MOC in the title. But for this case, I'm interested in the 3 modules mentioned here, 192, 193, and 197. I mark them, and I add selected proficiencies to template. Now I see that I'm monitoring master, chief officer, chief engineer, second engineer on board all installation, all tags. Everything looks like I want it to be. And I save this. and I activate it. In its current form, this template is only available for my administrator account. That means that you can create a plethora of different compliance templates that you wish to review, but it's only applicable for you. If you wish this to be for your whole department or other administrator as well, you need to click Share. So if I click Share, we see that it's now shared. The only one that can edit this is the one that created it. Oh, and now we have created the template. If I go back to Compliance View now, and I find the MLC top 4, sorry, I will now see the status according to the top 4 for the 3 modules. And that's only if they're required. So for instance, if the second engineer was not required to do one of the modules, it will not show up as a requirement here. So it's not simulating requirements, it's checking the status of the already existing requirements. And we see that overall we have 69 proficiencies fulfilled, 31%, and 153 proficiencies are still pending to be fulfilled. And we see on board it's a bit better, it's 43% versus 57%. And we see again personnel pools and their status in compliance and pending. We see the different nationalities, how much is in compliance and how much is pending. Managed by tags again, just different views. Installation groups, my different installation groups here and their progression. And again, same with a different kind of view. If I go to installation performance here, use the same setting, and we'll see top 4, and apply it. We see a bit more from the installation view. We see the same top overall and onboard compliance, but then we have my vessels, LNG Yoga, which has 1 proficiency required or fulfilled and 1 missing, so 2 in total. And then with green where it's 2 that's fulfilled and 3 missing. And we see here for the different ranks. And we see that for the masters currently assigned on board, there's a total of 4 requirements for these 3 modules that we looked at. That's the compliance templates. It gives you the ability to have a granular look on your training requirements and the results. James, I saw you come in.
Yes, I'm back again. Sorry, Nikolai. There's just 2 questions have come in during that section. Can other functionalities of OLP be used without an onboard installation? And can OLP be integrated with Compass?
Short answer is yes. For use without an offline installation, yes, you can. If you're not adding service record to installations and having the installations at least registered, you will not be able to track the data as per installation, if that made sense, the question. If you don't install the offline capabilities but still have the installations and still use the service records to identify where your vessel, where your crew members are belonging, you will have all the granularity. But if you're not doing that, only using pure online, you will not have that granularity, but you will still be able to use the functions. It's mostly when it comes to reporting. When it comes to integration, yes, there is API integrations available with Compass.
Okay, and just one more on this one. Can I arrange a joining crew to start training 1 month ahead of joining?
Yes. As long as they're added to the system, they're able to log in online. So you need to provide them with the login information, of course. You need to add them. Either it's done via APIs. If you have set up an API with the Compass, the personnel will be added automatically, or else you need to add them as personnel. And they will log in. The first time they log in is with their ID. They need to know the company name, the ID, and the date of birth would be the password for first time login. And I recommend requiring them to change the password when you add them.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much. Thanks.
Very good. I see that I need to speed up a bit. One of the fantastic, let me show one of the reports that I always recommend. No matter which software level you have the requirement status for personnel on installation. Again, you need to have service records and track where the personnel are operating. But if I generate this, for MV Green, which I have some people on board, I select to include only personnel registered on board. I'm just going to request this report to show how it looks. And it's quite an extensive report because it shows the status of all training requirements for all crew currently registered on board my vessel. And we see it's listed here with the requirements and the status. It's quite easy to read. And this is an excellent report to send to your master or chief officer, whoever you nominate to be the training manager on board or training responsible on board, because it shows the status of all the required training for the personnel on board. And this report can, if you go to reports and statistics, we select reports, and we have this schedule reports. If you click that, you will find it, requirement status for personnel on installation. You click schedule. And if you take MV Green here, for instance, include only personnel registered on board. I gave it a name, training status, MV Green. And I would recommend sending this to the master on board. So general master email. I would recommend to have also the training department in copy, maybe even the vessel manager. And send it at every first day of the month, and repeat every month. This way, you are showing that you're monitoring this, and you're giving the master the tool to immediately track down what the status is without even logging into the system. So you're serving it on a silver platter. It's a very nice way of showing that both you're engaged and you as a company value this and is utilizing it. A common mistake when starting the program and starting the training is that it's provided on board, but it's not followed up. And our seafarers have a very busy day on board. If there is something that is just implemented without any real consequences of monitoring, it would tend to just be forgotten about, and then you won't get traction on training. So this report, setting it up, scheduling it for each and every one of your vessels, would give you a lot on a silver platter. And also for you in the training department, you could take a look at it, receiving it every month. You just take a look at it without even logging into the system, and you see the status on board. Moving on, I would like to show you the Rapid e-learning, which is a very nice little tool to rapidly close training requirements. So if I have an incident, very specific to me, if I've changed my SMS, if ever I have a training gap that I don't have a generic content for, but I have created my own training material and want to provide it to the candidates quickly, I can create this here. And it's quite simple. I go to training Rapid e-learning and modules, and I add the e-learning module, give it a name. I can categorize it. So you can create your own categories. We can do a full session of this if this is of interest. Your account manager will advise you. and create a guideline. And now I created a module. I see that it's currently 0 megabyte. The limit is 100 megabytes. I see who was creating it, who updated it, when it was last updated. So it's just a summary page. But of course, I want some content in here. And what is supported is PowerPoint presentations, PDFs, videos in MP4 format, and the test is multiple choice test generator in the tool. So it's PowerPoint. If I click that and just give it a recognizable name for this demo. If I upload, I have created a PowerPoint for this. And I upload it. And now the system is converting this to HTML. So we see that the size is reflecting how it looks in HTML after conversion. We see that we get a preview. So we can look through the content and see that we uploaded the correct file. I save it. Quite easy to add another chapter. We see here is a PDF that we added to the module. I also want to have a video. This takes a bit more time. It's a 44-second ultra high quality video, so it takes a bit of time for a conversion. But you see how easy it is to add the content. Of course, you have to create it on yourself. It's worth mentioning that since this is converted to HTML, it's only supporting flat PDFs and flat PowerPoints. That means that no animations or videos embedded into the files will work. So if you ever have a video, you need to upload it as an MP4 video. You see here, it would take 63 megabytes out of the available 94, so I'm still within the limits. I save this. And then, of course, I want to end with a test because I want some verification of the training done, that they have actually completed it. I can select the mastery score that I want to have. So for this one, I will just add one question, so 100% makes perfect sense. It's quite easy. You see, I just pressed add question. I add a question here. I save it. Sorry. I add an illustration. You can have a very small illustration, 400 by 300 pixels. So it's more than enough for this copy capture. And I add the answer alternatives. And I identify what is correct and what is incorrect. And I can add alternatives if I want that. And I can remove them. So it's quite simple. I'll now save the question. And if I want to edit it, I can click it again and see it. Yes, I see. I saw you flash on. Yes.
Yes, yes, just got a couple of questions have come in around this. I think it would be a good point to have a look at those.
Yeah.
And if any part of the e-learning modules you've just uploaded is updated at a later date, is it easily changed?
Yes, it is. I'll run very quickly through it afterwards. But yes, okay. It's very easy to update. Will audio in a PowerPoint video work when creating a rapid e-learning module? No, convert it to MP4. A very easy way to do this is having a Teams meeting with yourself and record that and run through the module. Then you have created an MP4 video. So that's very basic, but of course there are many tools out there for creating videos. But no, nothing of the fancy extras in the PowerPoint will be supported. Then it needs to be added as a video. Bearing in mind time, I'm moving on. James will call out if there's more questions. Review and publish. Of course, I've created the module now. I want to preview it to ensure that I have created the correct one. So we see the guidelines that I created in the very beginning is presented here. See the PPTX, it's working, it's resizing. Oh, and all the pages are there, very good. How does the PDF look? Yeah, it's readable, it's scrollable, I can resize it, yes. Works perfectly. See the video? I don't know if you will hear the sound, but from my side it's sound. Bearing in mind time, we'll just skip out of this. And then we have the assessment. It's not a clean template, it's a coffee capsule. And yes, a 100% score, so it was scoring me correctly. So this model works. I publish it online. And now the system is publishing the module. You see here immediately, I have created a new version. So its version 1 is out. I can create a new version. And we see that the version 1 is still enabled, so it wasn't a critical error. But if it was something critical wrong here, I would disable it. And as long as it's in review, it can't be published, but I can publish it online. I can do the changes, go back to module, I can edit. No, I want this to be chapter 2. Let's see. And I want the PDF to come first, so I put that as sort order. Sort order 1. So that was the simple change I did here. And that was enough, and I publish it online. And of course, I want this to close down a training gap. I make an enrollment. So I search for, I click add enrollment. I set a due date, which within this date, I want this completed. And I have the personnel search. So for instance, I could do this to everybody that either is on board MV Green or has been on board it last time they were serving. I get the list. I see there's 48 records. Being lazy, I sort to 500 a page and just multi-select. Because this was very applicable to MV Green, they can't wash their coffee machines, complaints all the time, so I just want to close this down. And then I get this choice by system notification and send notification by email. So for this enrollment, they will even get emails that they are to log in and complete this module. And I save and close, and I also see that, oh, for this list of users, is what 14 users that had an email registered, they got the notification. The 34 users with a missing email address will only be notified when they log into the system. And of course, I see the status of the module. Were there any new questions before we jump to the user side, James?
No other questions at the moment.
Yep. Of course, there's multiple capabilities here that can even be provided on board, but there's a longer project for that and different discussions. For just the teaser, providing it online, it's immediately there, it's immediately available for training. So, Let's log in as a seafarer. So they will need to know the company alias, whatever you've been named the database, and they need to know their ID, and they need to know the password, which is the date of birth, the first time login. And here you see this user, he has a highlighted notification. It's immediately in your face logging in, and that's a company notice, which has been deemed critical. So that's when it pops out. It's quite easy for me to go in immediately, read through it, and I confirm that I read and understood. So you have a verification that the information has arrived at the user side. And this is, for the administrator, it's quite easy to track down. But let's return to the home page, the very first page you hit when logging in, unless there's a critical notification, which pops up in front. We see my name, it's welcoming me, it shows me my overall progress. It shows schedule, which is modules that have been identified that should be closed within a certain period of time. And we see here the coffee machine, rapid e-learning that we made. It is due within 1st of July. And I also have a garbage and waste management module that I've already started. We see this notification, it's in progress, and that's due for October. So I click this, and I can read about it. I see the chapters here, and I can easily start the activity. And now we see the same as we did. It's the module. And since we don't have time, we skip a bit. I don't know if you hear the sound, but for me it's quite loud. But let's mute it so it doesn't disturb. And you see how easy it is. This is done with a mobile camera. It's one of our colleagues that made it with as a project with his son. So they just used an hour or so to record this and edit it and create the MP4. And this you of course can involve your crew in. I know some companies are using it and involving their crew in making modules, making some competitions out of it to share knowledge between the different vessels. And then of course you get a very relatable environment where it's filmed. And now we're back, and let's do the assessment. And it's a coffee capsule. And we passed it. And we see that it's now completed. If we return to the home page, we had a module that we'd started. You can see that. Oh, we see that we have not attempted the first chapters, but if we go to the ones that we started, we get the selection. Do we want to continue from the bookmark or from the first page? So if we continue to the last point. And then, of course, if you go back to the home page, if they click My Requirements, they can see the different requirements. Here are different requirement trees. And if you see, for instance, this requirement, we see a bit about it. And we see that for this requirement, it can either be checked out by a certificate uploaded in the system, a course done and registered in the system, or an onboard assessment. And if we click the details, we learn more about it. That's just a little teaser that there's a lot of ways. If you start moving into full CMS, you have a lot of possibilities of checking out requirements and configuring requirements. Here we have SES tests, we have company notices. I see James in my...
Yeah, we've just got a quick question in here, Nikolai. Can you add these rapid e-learning courses as part of the reporting section, like as part of the vessel required training report?
Yes, you can. Currently need some involvement from our support, but you can put it in the training matrix. As soon as it's created, it can be set as a requirement in the training matrix with retraining requirements.
Okay, great.
So and that way it will work as the other ones. And there are separate reports for monitoring enrollments and rapid e-learnings. Excellent. Of course, my requirements is one thing. In an ideal situation, I'm finished with everything. I could go into the Ocean Library and scroll through all the different required or subscribed modules. Also see that we have rapid e-learning courses and Pulse service here. For rapid e-learning, a very good example would be company-specific training. I could browse through it and be a bit proactive. I can do a search. If there was something I was discussing with a colleague on board and I wanted to check for verify the data, I want to learn more about the subject, I can easily search and get up everything that is covering that subject in the subscription that we have. It's quite easy, and to start them, it's just clicking them. You can read more about them. You can start activity, or you can go directly into the different chapters here. I can see my own profile, which is the same as you see as an administrator. I can do my requirement simulation. Of course, this is a master, so it doesn't have a lot of progression, but let's say that I wanted to start working at a container. I now simulate the container requirement. And for anything that is individually registered, like e-learning, I can just click the title here, and I can run the e-learning and be completing it. And as the record will be following me, no matter if it's a requirement or not, if I'm ever in a position where it's required of me and I already have a record within the criteria, for this is 10% score and an expiration date, so retraining period. So as long as it's within that, it will be green if I'm changed to that rank. When I say green, it's the color green. It's verified. It's completed. And I can also see my records, and I can print the details, get the verification of training if I so want to. And I would like to point out this is available for both administrators and trainees. The help function is very thorough and extensive. And for instance, data exchange, which is the communication with the vessel and online database. If I search for that, I get all the articles where it's mentioned. I get highlighted where it's mentioned, and the headline of the article. And here I see explained with screenshots how to do it. So the help file is very helpful, but I don't read manuals on the things I buy either. But I've started to use this a lot. You also have publications where we host a series of bulletins, which is a newspaper style short articles about the industry, what is going on. As you see, we are updating it quite regularly. And this is done by Ocean, and it's provided to all trainees, so that they can have a look here if they're wanting to know what's going on. And I think that kind of summarizes it. It's meant to be a teaser. A lot of these functionalities we can discuss forever. How to get your personnel to train is a good subject to discuss. It's a wide subject to discuss, but we're always here for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Nikolai. I hope all of you who joined us this morning found that interesting and useful. If you do have any further questions as a follow-up to this, then please don't hesitate to reach out to us excuse me, individually. Then I'm sure we'd be more than happy to engage in a conversation about that. We will send out a follow-up email to this with a recording of the webinar for you as well. So if there's anything you want to recap on or share with any colleagues, then you'll have the ability to do that. But once again, from all of us here, thank you very much for taking the time to join us this morning. Unless anybody else has any other questions, then we'll end it here and let you go about your day. I can't see any other questions in the chat box, so I'm assuming there's not. So yeah, thank you once again, and look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nikolai. Bye-bye.